Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best right back in world football. I think he was the best right back in world football last season as well. If he only plays at this level for the rest of his career, he will not just be the best right back in world football, he might go down as one of the all-time great right backs in the history of football. And he's a Scouser and he's great, and not only is he still getting the assists, I think he's a 5-goal a season minimum fullback. And this season, you know, it's as close as you're going to get to that. He's 21 years old, he's a Scouser, he plays right back. He's the second highest assist maker in the Premier League season, behind only Kevin De Bruyne, and he takes free kicks. I'm not sure there's any better 21-year-olds in world football than Trent, to be honest.
He fits Klopp's idea of what he wants as fullbacks perfectly. It's very, very difficult to say anything about him that's not positive. I mean, we're talking about Young Player of the Year for Trent. He should be talked about as Player of the Year. I mean, he's been that good. You forget that he's a young player. You know, he's up there as one of our stars. I've been watching some of the highlights back of the season. He features so strongly throughout the season. He's just phenomenal. And we're so lucky to have unearthed a Scouser who can play that well. And he's going to be a world superstar. And he's going to be a world superstar very soon.
It's a bit of a cliche to say that he is revolutionising the right back role, but that is exactly what he's doing. And he's only 21. It's mental what he's doing. It's mental what he's won. It's mental what he's achieved. But you know, I think the best example to give is the game against Chelsea towards the end of the season, where he puts that one on a plate for Firmino, and that's just what Trent Alexander-Arnold is all about, being able to put in that quality delivery pretty much every time. I mean, it's that, and his other trademark is the crossfield pass to Andy Robertson, which, you know, I think it leads to the second goal against City at Anfield in November. And, you know, what that boy is capable of doing, you know, we haven't seen the limits of yet, and we won't see completely what he's capable of for another good few years, because he's just going to keep improving and improving. A real integral part of this side, and yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Trent's had an unbelievable season. You know, he goes out there and he breaks a record from assists from a defender last season, and then does it again this season. And you're like, what's his level? Like, what's his ceiling? I've no idea. He's still not the polished, finished defender that you'd expect to see. He's still only young. He can get better, and yet he's already the best right back in the world. Like, as if at 21 years old, he's already the best right back in the world. He's the most important player to Liverpool. He facilitates everything that we do. And you can say that about Bobby, you can say that about Salah and everything else. But if we don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold, we don't walk this league.
I thought it would be difficult for Trent to do what he did in the last season. And not only did he do that, he went one better. You know, more assists, more influence on games. And I find it remarkable, the consistency that he's shown. At first, when he first got put as a right back, there were those little chinks where you could tell it wasn't quite right. I think Zaha and Rashford sometimes got the better of him and stuff like that. But it's been a long time since I can think of an opposition winger who's got much joy out of him. So defensively, he's much improved. And then going forward, he is just on another level. I've never seen a footballer run a game from right back. And that's what he does for us. He's essentially our main player in terms of the creativity and that, and he does it from right back. And obviously, I think the crowning moment was probably the Boxing Day game at Leicester, where he was just, you know, on a game where the whole world was watching. It was the last game, Liverpool were the only team playing, just hoping will they slip up against a decent team away, and he was just out of this world good. Assist, the goal itself and the celebration, everything about it was just iconic. He is genuinely like a special footballer.
Joe, I mean, he finished this season. I think that's the first time he's actually finished a season. He normally gets injured about 2/3 of the way through. I mean, this time he got injured early on. He had a few critics when he came back because he obviously wasn't quite at his game. But he soon got back to his best. And at his best, he's a brilliant centre-back. Joe Gomez just looks like a Rolls Royce when he's on his best. He's so fast, he glides across the turf. He's very commanding. I mean, I remember when he became Liverpool's best left back. and remain Liverpool's left back, even though he got injured and didn't play for about a year.
There's been some really good performances for this season. In fact, I'd say the majority of his performances have been good performances. I mean, you don't get into one of the best defences in the side for no reason. But then I think, particularly since the restart, we've seen not so good performances from Joe Gomez, and I think that's something that really, when he's looking at the fella alongside him and the consistency that Van Dijk puts in, if you want to reach that level, that's the next sort of thing that he's got to figure out. I think you kind of mistake, because he's been here for so long, you don't realise that he's still very young and he's still a very raw talent. And I think as he develops as well and he reaches, playing alongside Van Dijk isn't going to do him any harm. He will sort that out and he will become a better player.
Joe's just continued where he left off last season. Now, he's not played all season. There's been times where Matip's been number one. There's been times where Lovren's been number one. But to come back from the injuries that he came back from, to create that partnership at the heart of the defence with Virgil van Dijk that Joe has done, it's absolutely unbelievable. Like, the level that he's playing at right now, you'd think he was a senior professional. You'd think that he'd been in this side for 10 years, but he hasn't. He's still a young lad who, it was only earlier on in the season he was playing right back, but now he's playing centre half with Virgil van Dijk every week, and we've forgotten about him covering at right back. So for me, the level that he's playing at, the fact is Joe Matip's in the prime of his career. Dejan Lovren's had to move on because he can't dislodge Joe Gomez. His ceiling is maybe as high as Virgil van Dijk's.
Joe Gomez falls into that awkward category where, he's on the cusp of not being a young lad anymore. I think this was a big season for Gomez. It's telling that when Liverpool are at the best, when we're at our crushing best, when we get the real grind of the season done and we stop conceding goals, Joe Gomez is in the team. I think he's the absolute perfect foil for Virgil van Dijk. He's got that phenomenal pace. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's happy to stride forward into midfield and break lines if he needs to. His passing range is pretty good as well. And again, just his reading of the game, I think, is fantastic. And if he can put together a full season like he did from November-ish to March, if he can convert that into a full season, I think he will be undoubtedly England's best defender. He actually might be England's best defender right now.
If you're talking about the best young defenders in the world, then Joe Gomez just is in that category with all of them. It's hard to be a young defender, I think, because you are exposed, and playing next to the best defender in the world obviously helps him. But there's times where he's done Virgil favours as well. People think that it's just Van Dijk holding Joe Gomez's hand, but it's not. There's been games where Joe Gomez, again I think at the Tottenham game for example, where Joe Gomez bails Virgil out a few times. So it is a partnership that's developing, and there will be teething pains, and he has had his issues, don't get me wrong, he hasn't been perfect. I think post-lockdown he was actually pretty ordinary. He had a few pretty poor games before he got himself back into things. But what was Virgil van Dijk doing at Joe Gomez's age? He wasn't Virgil van Dijk. He probably wasn't as good as Joe Gomez is now on that career path. So I think he's a gem. He's an absolute gem, and we've got to stick with him.
There's no doubt in my mind that Keita is on the path, or has all the talent and all the attributes to be world class. He just needs to play more games of football. He was very strong in restart, and I think that helps his case immeasurably, because we remember what Naby's done, because it was right there and it was most recent and most prevalent. I think we're finally seeing a Naby Keïta fully integrated into the squad. Hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, one who's past any injury concerns he might have had. I think he has the ability there to be one of the best players in this team.
I think he's been class, I really do. I think when you look at his season on the whole, yes, it kind of not flattered to deceive in the first part of the season, but what we've seen since coming back is him putting a string of games together, and when he's put those string of games together, he's looked the best player on the pitch since restart. Naby Keïta has been Liverpool's best player. Creatively offers something different to Wijnaldum and Henderson when they play those eights. He's direct, he slaloms with the ball, he dribbles with his chin up, and he's seeing the field, and he causes teams issues because he doesn't play like the others. And I think he's a bit of an enigma in a midfielder. Like, it's not often you talk about a dribbling centre midfielder, but that's what we've got in Naby Keïta, and he breaks the play open when he beats a man.
If we're being honest with ourselves, since arriving at Liverpool and that whole time, Naby Keïta's probably underwhelmed us a little bit, just because You know, the play that we were seeing at Leipzig didn't quite translate himself straight away to coming in at Liverpool. And I think that's partly down to injuries, and it's partly down to being in a much more competitive team and needing to work and you need to get yourself a run of games to play yourself into form, but you're not going to get that in this side if you're not playing at the level that we need you to be. Obviously, since the lockdown, we've kind of seen him go up a level. And if he can continue that into next season, but crucially, he needs to stay fit, then we're going to see the Naby Keïta that we saw at Leipzig, because he's going to get the run of games that he needs to properly play himself into form. And then from there, we're going to see a player that we haven't seen in a Liverpool shirt before.
At his best, he's going to add something to our side, which we desperately need, which is more goals from midfield, more creativity, you know, an ability to break down defences by go and pass people in short spaces. He's got a lot of talent. He's able to drop his shoulder, move past 2 or 3 defenders, play lovely 1-2s around the edge of the box. And he's also got that ability to drive from midfield. He's got a lot more pace than he looks as though he's got. I just hope that he stays fit, gets a really good run of games in the side, because then, you know, he's going to be a real asset to our side if we can get a midfield player who can play at that level consistently. And that's his only problem, is he's not consistent.
He is such an enigma, and that's what's so fascinating about him. I think post-lockdown, he's probably been Liverpool's best player. His stats are out of this world in terms of the chances created and the forward passes and the dribbles and all that kind of stuff. He's right up there. And for a while, I always saw those stats and they were kind of at odds with what I'd seen with my eyes on the game. I was like, I don't really remember Naby being that effective. But I think certainly post-lockdown, I think you can tell the difference that he has made. He is so incisive. And what I like about him is that it doesn't always have to be safe. I think with sometimes Liverpool's midfielders, and it's a product of the system, is that their job is to be safe, and it's up to the others. You know, can we get the ball wide for Trent and Andy Robbo to create, or can we just get it to Mane and Salah and Nail do something, or Bobby? Where Keita's almost one taking that risk. He's happy to go for the 1-2, and he's happy to lose the ball, and that's fine in that area of the pitch. As long as you can trust what's behind you, and again, why wouldn't you trust what's behind you or what should be behind you? He's willing to take those chances. I think again, it's almost staying fit. I think if he stays fit and he has a good summer and a good pre-season with the lads, I don't think it would be a huge shock to anyone if Keita's starting games regularly for Liverpool, and he should, at his age and the price tag and what he's come, he should be nailed on in Liverpool's first team, and I think if he stays fit, he's definitely got a chance.